about the status of the school, how they can contribute, how we can help bring this dream that you've had for, it seems like a decade now, fully into fruition. We got the building, we got the renovations. Where are we at?
Great question, attorney. Yes, indeed. February the 7th will mark 3 years. 3 years that we have owned the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy campus down in Wilmington, Delaware. 4 buildings, 2 schools, 2 gyms. Right now, I am waiting for my HVAC tech to give me the date on which we're going to finally lift the $47,000 brand new custom-made HVAC unit that we paid for 6 months ago, lift it up onto the school and tie it into the HVAC system. And thereafter, we need to check the internal dynamics of the system to make sure they still work. So that's the next stage of the renovations. I met with a contractor yesterday to repair the HVAC system on the small gym. So right now, we're dealing with HVAC. We got HVAC on the school. We have the unit. It's sitting there in the crane yard. I'm just waiting for the tech to give me the date. I'm getting a little frustrated because we were supposed to do it in November, and then we were supposed to do it in December. And this is why, attorney, these renovations have taken so long. And I'm not speaking negatively about my HVAC tech because I need them, right? But this is why it's taken us so long to get the school ready, because you meet one contractor. I don't care if it's an electrician, a plumber, an HVAC tech. And you kind of got to give them about a month to get their price list together, materials list, give you a quote, give you a proposal, right? And then once you agree to the proposal, you give them a down payment, and then you got to chase them around for another month to finally do the work, you know, and then they might do work for about a month but not finish the job, and then they disappear, and before you know it, you done spent 6 months to a year with a single contractor, and then you get rid of them and you get a new one, and you got to go through the whole thing all over again. That's why the renovations are taking so long. I don't know if this is just a culture of contracting because I'm not a tradesman. I do hear from other people that this is how it is. Like, you really have to stay on them, fight them, track them down, take them to court, threaten not to pay them. It's just been a very, very difficult road finding the right people to get this job done. But with that being said, I'm still hopeful because the unit is there. We have it. I do believe he's going to give me a date so we can finally put it on a small school. And with the contract I met with yesterday, he's very confident that he can repair the unit that's already on the side of the gym. Once both HVAC units have been repaired or replaced, we are on the other side of the renovations. The HVAC is the top of the mountain. So we've climbed up one side of the mountain. The HVAC is the top of the mountain. Once we get the HVAC done, we're now coming back down the other side, and we're almost done. So the HVAC, once we complete that, I can see the finish line. We will be able to see the finish line once the HVAC is done. So we just want everybody to keep us in their prayers. Keep on donating on your Cash App, $FDMG School. I repeat, on your Cash App, $FDMG School. For my international Africans and everyone else, you can also use PayPal, paypal.me/FDMG Academy. And, of course, you can mail your donation in by check or money order. That information is on my website, DrUmarJohnson.com. So we're still pushing forward, and we're looking forward to seeing everybody back at the school on Saturday, September the 10th, for our second annual FDMG Family Festival. And we're strongly considering, attorney, hosting our very first Unapologetically African Awards ceremony that night to honor brothers and sisters in the Black community who do what is right for our people, from the educators to the activists to the elders to the business owners, people who actually do what they should do, which is fight and defend our people. We want to honor them, because one of my critiques of us as a people is we do not honor the people who do well for us, and we do not punish those who don't do well. So the Black community has to create a system of accountability in order for us to become what we ought to become and what God expects us to become.
Couple of announcements. Number one, the second annual FDMG Unapologetically African Family Festival. For those of you who were there and those of you who missed it, the second one will be on September 10th. Saturday, September the 10th. That'll be the next festival. It is my hope that prior to September the 10th, the Marcus Garvey Elementary School is fully renovated. That is my hope. To have the school done by then would be, man, that would be such a great thing. The Nat Turner, John Jacques Dessalines Gymnasium, which is the separate gymnasium, it's its own building, but it is the gymnasium for the Marcus Garvey Elementary School. The only thing we have to do in there is get the HVAC repaired. That's the only thing. So I am hoping that in the next couple of months, I'm hoping by the end of February, the end of Black History Month, that we have an HVAC unit on that small gym, because that is the only thing holding up the gym. The gym has been ready since the summertime, probably the spring. The gym has been ready, but of course, we cannot get a certificate of occupancy unless all the systems are functioning. And the one system that is not functioning in the gymnasium is the HVAC. We have to get that replaced. And so I'm going to be meeting with a couple of folk who are going to come and take a look at it. And we've been doing this for 3 years, so I'm not excited anymore about having more people come take a look, because it doesn't often result in the necessary action to get the job done. But the gym, we've been at the finish line for like 6 months. We just got to get that unit fixed. As far as the Marcus Garvey Elementary School, I'm waiting on my HVAC tech to give me a date that he's going to put the unit on top of the school. We paid for the unit. The unit is in Delaware. It's at the crane yard, the crane company that's going to actually bring it to the school and lift it up onto the roof. It's in Delaware, and I'm just waiting for my HVAC guy to tell me when we're going to do this. He originally wanted to do it on November the 12th, but I had to speak in Norfolk, Virginia. And so now it's been about 6 weeks. I haven't gotten another date. I am patient. I have to be, because he's the only HVACer that really came through for me in a responsible and in a reasonable manner. So, although I'm tired of waiting, at the same time, he has been a big help. He does have a lot of jobs he's doing. I just hope uh, he will give me a date soon so we can be done with that part of the job. Because once the HVAC is in and tied in to the elementary school, we are on the other side of finishing the elementary school. Once the HVAC is done, we're on the other side of completion. So that's the good thing about that. For those of you who are donors to the FDMG cause, I appreciate you for doing so. I really appreciate you guys for standing by us. It has been a quite of a journey. I do plan to pen a book on building FDMG, because I don't think one chapter entitled Building FDMG in my own political autobiography that I'm working on, I don't think that one chapter would be sufficient. FDMG needs its own book, because that is how much we have been through with the school, from the hate campaigns to the saboteurs to the frenemies to the agents to the spies, dealing with the city, dealing with the contractors, the fundraiser. We've just been through a lot, going back to trying to purchase St. Paul's College, back in 2014. It has been one heaven of a journey. And so I'm hoping that the journey ends in terms of the school being completed. I'm hoping that'll be done before September the 10th, the festival. So that's one announcement. The other announcement is we're working on the Black College and Consciousness tours, which are going to take place late spring, early summer. There will be 2 trips. One tour will be for 11 to 17-year-old boys and girls, and another tour will be for 18 to 25-year-old boys and girls, or young men and women, I should say. So if you have children between 11 and 17 or 18 to 25, you will be able to enroll them in the tour. The first tour that I did, it was a 2-week tour. I have to decide if I want this one to be 2 weeks. I might cut it down a little bit. Instead of 14 days, it may be 7 or 9 or 10. only because we're doing multiple tours. I do like the 2-week experience, um, but because we're going to be running multiple tours, I might need to cut that down from 14 days to maybe 9 or 10 days. We will be taking them to Cheney University, Lincoln University, Howard, Morgan, Coppin, Bowie, Dell State, Maryland, Eastern Shore.
See you in the house.
Indeed, indeed. Yes, indeed. We go to Dorney Park, Great Adventures, and we call it the Black College and Consciousness Tour because we also take them to historic landmarks from our history and our struggle. So we go to Harriet Tubman's home, her grave, Frederick Douglass' home, his grave. We go to the world famous Apollo Theater, the Malcolm and Betty Shabazz Center, where Brother Malcolm was murdered, unfortunately. We take them to Ferncliff Cemetery and we pour libation at the graves of Malcolm, Betty, Dr. Ben, Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad. Paul Robeson is there. James Baldwin is there. Aaliyah is there. So many of our great ones are buried in Ferncliff Cemetery. It might be the most famous cemetery for African people, probably for any people. But of course, we're focusing on ourselves. It might be the most famous cemetery in the world. I don't know if there's another cemetery with as many icons, especially from the freedom struggle, as Ferncliff Cemetery. We normally go up there for Malcolm X's birthday, May 19th, but that hasn't happened in the past 2 years due to the COVID situation. But we also will go to the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture. For those of you who are not familiar with Arthur Schomburg, he was a friend of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, and he was a contributing writer to the Negro World, the UNIA's paper. He's also probably the first, arguably the first ancestor to systemically study the African contribution to civilization. And he was Puerto Rican, but he firmly embraced his African heritage in the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture, which is now housed within the New York City Public Library system, which still remains the largest collection of documentation on the global African struggle in the world. So it would not be the artifacts. So it's not a museum per se. It can still be considered a museum. I wouldn't really consider it a museum per se, because when most people hear museum, they think of artifacts. They're thinking of statues, jewelry, skeletons, artwork, that type of a thing. The Schomburg is more documentation. So if you want to see some of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's original letters, they would be there. Marcus Garvey's original copies of the Negro World, they would be there. Some of Malcolm's written speeches, they would be there. If you would like to see some of the original escaped slave narratives, they would be there. So when it comes to information and documentation, you want to see the proof, the literature, the letters. You want to see the correspondence, the newspapers that are out of print that our ancestors once printed. That's where you go to the Schomburg for. And if you haven't been to the Schomburg, you want to go, I mean, you can be there all day. You can literally be there all day because they just have so much, and they have so much of stuff that you may have never even thought about looking at. And you'd be like, wait a minute, they have that? Let me go take a look at that. Letters from, hypothetically, they would have something like letters from brothers who might have fought in World War II or Vietnam, or the Tuskegee Airmen, letters they might have wrote home, while they were being trained to become a Tuskegee Airman. They would have that type of stuff. I mean, a lot of stuff that is very personal that you wouldn't expect to be able to see from a person. The Schomburg has a lot of that, and definitely a place you need to visit. So we take them there. We come down to Philly. We go to the Black African Holocaust Museum in Philadelphia. I also do a Center City tour, Liberty Bell, Independence Hall, give them the truth of Philadelphia. In the same place that's called Independence Hall is where they used to enforce the fugitive slave law and other things like that. And then we go on down to Baltimore, the Great Blacks and Wax Museum, Reginald F. Lewis Museum, the Frederick Douglass and Frank Merriweather Maritime Museum. What else do we do? The aquarium, the Harriet Tubman hometown tour, the Frederick Douglass hometown tour, the Nat Turner Trail, the Benjamin Banneker home. We just do it all. We just do it all. It's so much to do that, we rise early and we finish late. And then there's also seminars that I conduct with the children in a hotel conference room on some of the evenings of the trip. I try to do seminars every night, but the children, they be so tired after a full day of being out there and learning and visiting the schools and going to the different historical locations that a lot of times I just let them go right to bed. But it's a very fun experience for the children. And we're going to add the 18 to 25-year-old tour this year because we have a lot of young adults who are just out there kind of drifting, who need to refocus on their life. And that's why we're going to add the 18 to 25-year-old tour. And I'm also going to be working, probably not this year, but next year, I'm going to be working on a South tour. I already have the South tour set up. I even had a bus driver for the South tour, a charter bus for the South tour, who I need to reconnect with. But I want to go ahead and make the South tour happen soon too, because I don't want to neglect all of our young people who live in the southern states. And of course, the South tour will begin and end in Atlanta, whereas the North tour will begin and end at the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy in Wilmington. So the South tour, obviously, we're going to hit all the Atlanta HBCUs, right? Morehouse and Spelman and so forth and so on. Then we're going to go to Birmingham, hit their HBCUs. We're going to probably do North Carolina, South Carolina, Alabama, Georgia. I have to see how far we're going to go. We might touch Florida. We might touch Louisiana. We will hit Tennessee. We can hit Tennessee. I'm probably going to have two South tours because, as you guys know, the North doesn't have as many HBCUs as the South. And there's too many HBCUs to do them in one tour. So I'll probably have South and then maybe the Deep South or Mid South, because Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas, Mississippi, I think that's a tour all by itself. So I probably have to do a South tour and then a Mid South tour. Upcoming speaking events, I will be in Minneapolis on the 15th of January. Dr. King conference being held at the Minneapolis Convention Center on the 15th. The 16th, I'll go to St. Louis, where I haven't been in about 5 or 6 years. St. Louis is very personal for me because that's where I took the very first donation for the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy in 2014. So St. Louis has an extra special place in my heart. So I'll be there on the 16th. It looks like I'll be in Indianapolis on the 17th, which is the date when Dr. King's birthday is celebrated as a legal holiday. He was born on the 15th, so that'll be Minneapolis, but the federal government celebrates his birthday this year on the 17th. And so that'll likely be Indianapolis, and I'll be at the Crispus Attucks Museum in Indianapolis. Dr. Khalid Abdul-Muhammad birthday celebration, January the 12th. I think that's going to be in Harlem or Brooklyn, and that's on Dr. Khalid's birthday. So he'll actually begin the month for me. It'll be Dr. Khalid, then Dr. King, with Minneapolis, St. Louis, Indianapolis. Where else do I have in January? Pittsburgh on the 26th of January. And then DeSoto, Texas on the 29th. DeSoto, Texas on the 29th, and Shreveport, Louisiana for the first time on the 30th. And that'll probably be it for January. Black History Month, I'm working on that right now as we speak. I can't wait for the school to get done, though, because once that gym is ready, I'm going to stop traveling as much, and folks will have to come to FDMG for the different events that we'll be hosting there.